It having reached the hour of 5:30 p.m., I am calling the December 2nd, 2025 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez-Brayton.
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Here.
Councilmember Ricky.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
And Mayor Zwellen.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Greg Matstall, Deacon at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's an honor to be here. A wise man once told me that I have a test for a good day. In the morning before I open my eyes, I stretch out my arms and kick my feet. And if I don't feel the insides of a pine box, it's going to be a good day. Too often we forget each day is a gift, meant to be opened with surprise, amazement, and gratitude. With that in mind, I offer this prayer. Holy One, Creator of everyone and everything, I give thanks for this land flowing with milk and honey and almonds and grapes and olives and everything else our farmers can conceive. Through your bountiful gift, this valley feeds this country and the whole world. I ask that you send your wisdom and blessings on these leaders of Modesto as they work to find the common good for the people they represent. I ask for your blessings and protection on our peace officers and firefighters who faithfully serve this community every day. And may you continue to bless this country and all who serve in our military. I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, I want to acknowledge the loss of one of our own young students in the recent tragic incident in Stockton. We mourn and grieve with his family and friends at this most difficult and tender time in their lives. At times like this, we need each other for support. May his family and friends feel that care and concern from our Modesto community. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor. Just a reminder, public comment is 3 minutes, and there's speaker cards at the entrance of the chambers. Written public comment was received for item 10, and it was forwarded to the council. Additionally, a Spanish interpreter is available for anyone in need of assistance. The interpreter is located at the front of the chambers. Hay un intérprete de español disponible para cualquier persona que necesita asistencia. La intérprete se encuentra enfrente de la sala. Gracias.
Thank you. Do any of the council members have any conflicts of interest? Seeing none, will the city attorney report out on closed session, please?
Yes, Mayor. The council met in closed session today under 2 items, one existing litigation matter and another one anticipated litigation matter. No reportable action was taken.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is public comment. As noted on the agenda, public comment will only be in person. Zoom will still be available for viewing and wordly translation. Thank you for being here tonight. The City of Modesto Council meetings are a place where everyone is encouraged to listen, share views, and participate in the decision-making process that benefits our community. Your engagement is valuable, and it helps our council and city staff collaborate on finding solutions that enhance the quality of life for the residents of Modesto. To be fair and equitable, every individual has the right to speak at this council meeting. However, it is imperative that we foster and maintain a respectful environment for the well-being and safety for everyone present at these proceedings. It is the mayor's responsibility to preserve strict order and decorum at all council meetings. Pursuant to the Charter of the City of Modesto, Article 6, the Mayor, Section 601, Powers and Duties of Mayor. The mayor shall have the authority to preserve order at all council meetings and to remove or cause the removal of any person from any meeting of the council for disorderly conduct, to enforce the rules of the council, and to determine the order of business under the rules of the council. Accordingly, the City Council meeting decorum rules are as follows. Please be respectful of all presenters, council members, staff, and members of the public. Please refrain from clapping other than following a presentation. All speakers are encouraged to state their name and city of residence. All questions must be directed to the mayor. Please do not block the view of others by holding signs up during council meetings. Time limits for public comment is 3 minutes, but may be limited at the discretion of the mayor to manage the business of the council. Speaking over others or interrupting while others have the floor is not permitted. Cell phones should be turned off or shall be set to vibrate during meetings. Thank you for your patience and participation as we work together to address the issues impacting the community. Maintaining order and decorum during the City Council meetings is crucial in the effective governance of Modesto and ensuring that the council's decisions are reflective of the community's priorities. Anyone disrupting the council meeting may be asked to leave. Does anyone wish to speak on any item under public comment? This is for items not on the council agenda, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Anyone wishing to address the City Council is asked to follow the rules of decorum, which are posted at the entrance of the chambers. I currently have 2 cards for items that are not on the agenda, and I will read them in the order received. The first is Stephen Villarreal.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. A little nervous, but I'm here to represent the Lowrider Committee that you guys helped put on the Lowrider holiday this year. September 27th it was passed. We want to show an act of appreciation. It's not sometimes we don't get to do this, but fortunately we're able to come together and get something for you guys. So we got a plaque here that I would like to represent and give it to you, Mayor, and all the dignitaries, and let it be hung somewhere so the city of Modesto can see that you guys are actively in our community and actively helping out just regular people like us. And we appreciate you guys. So here's this one. And we also, I do want to say that we wish everybody could have been here today. I do have some fellow members here with me, and I know everybody else would have liked to have been here too. So let's note that. And then I have one other one for you guys. We're a little late on this one, but you guys helped put on a great event. It made history at Crusader Park. And we appreciate all you guys that supported that and came out. It was something that the neighborhood appreciated and we appreciated it. So here's another plaque for you guys for putting on that, and that was in the 24th, and then that was July, I think 12th if it was, or something like that. But this is also for you guys. Please note that we appreciate you guys and support. That's about it.
All right, thank you very much. If you could please give those to Andrea, we appreciate you doing that. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
The next is Milt Treeweiler.
Good evening, Milt Treeweiler, and as you know, I'm a lifetime Stanislaus County resident. We learn from the past, we live in the present, and we plan for the future. I'm speaking today to make you aware that Stanislaus County has something not found anyplace else on the earth. The farmland in the central part of our county is irreplaceable. We have the prime farmland soils, and we have the irrigation water from our Turlock and Modesto irrigation districts, and we have the climate. We can grow fruit and nut tree crops found nowhere else on the earth. To my fellow community members and the good, thoughtful people of Stanislaus County, it's our responsibility to see that this farmland is saved and preserved. Agriculture is our #1 industry in Stanislaus County. Now is the time to do what must be done to preserve Stanislaus County farmland forever. We must be good stewards for our children and descendants, since they cannot plan for themselves. They can't do it for themselves because they're too young or they haven't been born yet. There's not 1 acre of farmland in some entire states and even countries as good as the farmland we have here. There is an abundance of poor soils and wastelands in California and our nation for the developers to build homes, warehousing, and industry on. We're educated adults and we have an intellect and we have choices. And yet, a few thoughtless people are choosing not to conserve the priceless resources we have. We do not want to use up the farmland that will be needed for our children and future generations. Our land areas in the MID and TID districts are already fully economically developed. They're producing food for our state, our nation, and the world. This land can produce food for our children and future generations for hundreds of years. Now is the time to shut this senseless growth down. We know that creating a food desert in Stanislaus County would be a terrible choice to make. The future of our children and descendants is our responsibility. We are intelligent and educated adults, and we know that this irreplaceable farmland must be saved. We must stop all growth in farmland in the MID and TID irrigation districts today. The TID and MID irrigation districts of Stanislaus County, we must build up in the infill and blighted areas of our cities and townships. We need to build an abundance of high-rise, luxury, and affordable apartment complexes, townhouses, and condominiums to save this farmland for our children and our descendants. I know we can do this, and you know we can do this, and now is the time to do it. We are parents and adults, and we are the ones who are responsible for our children and our descendants, and we're the ones that have to make these choices. And this is the time to make these choices, and this is the time to be very serious about this and know that it is our responsibility to take care of our children and descendants, because no one else is going to do that for them. They're not even born. Some of our descendants are not even born yet. We've got to start immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Dan Vega. I have a card for Dan Vega. Oh, there you are. Welcome.
Yeah, good evening. Dan Vega, resident of Modesto. I didn't prepare a speech today, but so I'm sure some of you have noticed I've been coming recently. I've come the last 4 speaking sessions, and so I'm kind of familiar with how things are going here. And I've noticed after the Pledge of Allegiance, there's been a prayer, and it's been the last 4 times I've been here, and specifically a Christian prayer. And immediately I thought that doesn't seem appropriate from my perspective. And I was looking into it a little bit more. My instant thought was, separation of church and state, which is a term that was coined by Thomas Jefferson. It's not in the Constitution, but the Constitution does say, basically, from my understanding, that a government cannot promote a single religion. And I do think that you probably have, it's not probably just standard operating procedure to have a Christian prayer every time after the Pledge of Allegiance, but it's clear that I imagine you have it open so any person of any religious belief can come up and say their piece. But the issue is that we all know, living in Modesto, there's a very strong Christian influence here, so statistically you're going to get mostly Christian, you're going to get a Christian prayer because it's just a lot of Christians here, but also not every religion embraces proselytizing and marketing and sharing their belief system, so it just feels inappropriate. I think you should just save it for right now, like I'm speaking right now. They can do a prayer for 3 minutes long, whatever. But not make it a standard thing after the Pledge of Allegiance. I just think it's inappropriate and maybe unconstitutional. I don't know, but I know it's not a popular thing to say. Most people, I can still appreciate it, but I don't think it's right. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else wishing to come and speak under public comment for items not on tonight's agenda? All right. Oh. Go.
Hello. Hi, I'm here to speak about the city's handling of Municipal Code 4.23, specifically the lack of transparency, the role the police department has in shaping this policy, and the lack of meaningful community engagement throughout this process. First, I am deeply concerned that the police chief has once again been given authority to write the ordinance that the police themselves will enforce. Second.
All right. I just wanted to remind you that will be the first item on our agenda and that you can speak during public comment regarding that particular item?
It's not the ordinance specifically, just how you guys have handled the whole process.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so second, I want to remind the council that the committee concerned about this ordinance did not come out of nowhere. It was raised after the ICE Out protest in June, where police used this ordinance as a pretext to arrest peaceful protesters. Every escalation that day came from a member of law enforcement and not from the community. And yet, after that, the city council delayed any meaningful response for 6 months. 6 months of community members showing up, speaking, emailing, jumping through every hoop this council put in front of us. And after a half of a year of review, the council comes back with a rewrite that changes nothing. It's performative. It does not address the core issues of overreach, misuse, or the chilling effect on the First Amendment. And to make matters worse, staff is now recommending the council waive the reading entirely and adopt these ordinances immediately. It signals that the city wants to avoid scrutiny, avoid questions, and avoid accountability. Third, the CPRB's recommendation have been selectively ignored. The CPRB's first recommendation to repeal subsection 13 was dismissed outright. Ignoring the CPR's top recommendation shows the city prefers appearance of oversight and not the reality. The city also claims it followed the CPRB's second recommendation by conducting a community survey, but that's misleading. The city already planned a survey and simply added a few questions about the ordinance without providing any information or context. That is not meaningful community engagement. It's another procedural checkbox. The public still has no information about the guidance provided by the civil rights attorney, Deborah Fox, who reviewed the ordinance. If the advice supported the city's position, it would have been released. So that raises the question, did the attorney tell you something you did not want to hear? And now the ordinance finding include a brand new claim from the chief that there's a decline in violent incidents at public assemblies, and that's contributing or attributed to the mask ordinance. But what is that based on? This ordinance was written in 2019, not enforced until 2025, and all related charges were dropped. So how does the chief suddenly have 4 years of data showing the mask ordinance reduced violence? The lack of transparency, the refusal to take civilian oversight seriously, and the unwillingness to meaningfully revise the ordinance is deeply disappointing and unacceptable. I urge the council to respect the CPRB's recommendations, release the civil rights attorney's findings, and demand actual evidence for the claims made in the findings, and actually listen to the community members that have shown up again and again in good faith. Thank you.
Excuse me. Right. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any other public comments for items not on the agenda?
Hi, Kevin McClarty, District 1. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I've spoken about this before. I wanted to bring it up again. I want to remind the Council once again that the whole section of Modesto west of McHenry Avenue is a ghost town after 11 o'clock at night. I mean, nothing is open. And I'm just hoping that something can be done about this. I mean, principally, the two pharmacies, Walgreens and CVS, they will stay open if there is a hospital within so many miles of their pharmacy. Excluding Kaiser, because Kaiser has its own pharmacy. And we have the doctor's hospital, which is not too far from the Walgreens on McHenry. And for years, the Walgreens on McHenry was 24 hours, and it was serving the needs of the patients from doctor's hospital. But then we had the theft problem and the $950 limit that I guess that was going on in San Francisco, whereby people were able to steal up to $950 worth of merchandise and walk out of the store with it and nothing would happen to them. And somehow or other that radiated to Modesto, or at least the perception of that radiated to Modesto. I'm not sure if it really radiated to Modesto, but the perception of it did. And so what happened was that the pharmacies started closing down at night. The pharmacies that had been serving the needs of patients from Doctors and Memorial Hospital were now closed down, and so the only pharmacies that were open were the one on Coffee Road, which is east of McHenry Avenue, and way east of McHenry Avenue, and also CVS, which is North McHenry Avenue, McHenry and Briggsmore. Other than that, there's nothing open at night. There are virtually no restaurants open at night except for Denny's, and the Denny's at 110 McHenry is not open 7 days a week at night anymore either. And then the one on by the Briggsmore overpass, that Denny's is only open 1 or 2 nights a week. The only restaurant that is open is Maria's Taco Shop. So I'm just wondering if the council can please be aware of this and try to encourage something to be developed in the west of McHenry to revitalize that part of town so that we can have something going on and not be such a ghost town at night. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
I did submit a card, so I'm not sure what the confusion was. I just want to let you know I am aware of item 10 on the agenda, so please don't get froggy and feel the need to interrupt me. Because I have important business tonight, I am here to commit a crime. I am here to commit a crime, and in the process of committing my crime, I'm covering my face to conceal my identity, so to help me get away with said crime. In fact, I have 2 crimes I'd like to commit tonight, and they all pretty much encapsulate standing up for other people who are being targeted by disgusting, corrupt government institutions. To start with, I'd like to talk about your constant reminders that you give to us of your disdain. You have disdain for community members who don't agree with your actions and policies. A good example of that is the constant guffawing, Chris staring down at his computer, laughing, obviously intentionally showing us how little he cares. I won't get into Bavaro. He should have his own rap sheet, but for some reason I didn't press charges. You disdain democracy itself because everything you do, you want to exclude us, as demonstrated by the fact that the municipal code we're here to argue about tonight was dictated to you by the fellas in the back of the room there. That's not democracy, Sue. You have just shown disdain for mental health. 2 of the families that I've had the honor and yet misfortune of meeting through advocating for victims of your police department's violence, both of the murders in those 2 cases, the victims were having mental health crises, and your police just decided to go publicly execute them. You show disdain for families. You pretend like families are all the same. They're like your families. They have your interests. You show disdain for community members who have been directly, verbally abused, publicly mocked, and openly disrespected, and so forth and so on. And by the way, I was assaulted and verbally threatened by Nick Bavaro in front of you, Sue, and Brandon Gillespie. And on the phone, you told me that you agreed that his behavior was inappropriate. When I asked you what you wanted to do, you said nothing. My point is, how in the world can this community settle for the garbage that you are shoving in our faces? And lastly, I would like to commit the crime of giving a damn about certain targets of MAGA fascism. And I'm here to speak out against the disgusting power structures that enable Afghans to be targeted and scapegoated, all very obviously for racist motivations, but really more so for the motivation of power, and in U.S. imperialism, and you guys here have a chance to remind people, at least in Modesto, that democracy is not completely dead just yet.
All right.
So stand up for your community of Afghans and don't let them get thrown to the wolves, in other words.
All right. I would like to note that, Stephen, I did not notice that you did circle both for public comment and for agenda, and you wrote the word both, and I missed that.
I did not, but I spoke with her, so
Okay. I missed that. I apologize.
But I did feel the vibe.
All right.
You weren't sure you wanted to let me come up. I'm not. Sorry about that. Why am I not arrested yet? You guys don't want to break my finger?
Go ahead.
Maybe next
Anyhow,
time.
All right.
good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. My name is Rochelle Levi-J, and I am the Religious Affairs Chair for the NAACP. I am here today to, we are sadly to announce for the passing of our former president, a lifetime member, Gladys Williams. Ms. Williams passed away on Thanksgiving Day in Memorial Hospital after multiple health complications. She done so much work in the community as a beloved teacher, educator over the past 35 years, She was associated of a lifetime member of the former president of the NAACP for 10 years. Ms. Williams has stood before the council on numerous of times over the past decades fighting for equity, illusion, out rights. We think it's only lifting and recognizing and honoring her tonight. The family would also like to let you know that they will be having a private service for her in the month of February. Miss Gladys was a pillar in the community, and we just would not be right if we don't acknowledge her in what she has done for this city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, I have Anthony Drobnik.
Hello. Coming here before you all to speak in public comment specifically about what I view as really a lack of support for our Community Police Review Board. It came out of what we called Forward Together, and I'm not really seeing the city moving forward or together when it comes to meaningfully supporting the CPRB. I've spoke before about my gripes about the fact that 48% of our general fund goes to the Modesto Police Department, and yet I feel our CPRB is underfunded. To me, there's a common sense solution. We need to reallocate, not increase, reallocate MPD's budget such that a portion of it is permanently designated for the CPRB. Similar bodies in other communities are funded. We have some amazing people that volunteer on that body. They should be getting stipends, and they should have a budget to meaningfully hold the police accountable. Well, this is something that really just shows me that in its present form, I don't believe that this council values the CPRB. When they make a recommendation to repeal an ordinance, and that recommendation is ignored, but you all get to pat yourselves on the back saying you took the recommendation about the survey. One that I would say a couple questions on a very lengthy survey presented acontextually without the meaningful information needed for residents that were surveyed to make an informed decision about what was going on with the mask mandate. That to me is the illusion of caring about the community. And I'd love to say put your money where your mouth is, but the problem is it's not even your money, it's ours as the people. Well, put our money where it needs to go. Not with the cops, not with a militarized police department, but with the Community Police Review Board. It's a necessary part of our community. We're lucky to have a CPRB and an independent auditor. Lucky isn't even the word for it. We fought for that. And yet, when it's underfunded, it's ineffective. And I'm not convinced you want an effective CPRB, because if you did, you would already be funding it. Clearly, community police relations are a pain point in Modesto. I think there's anyone in the room that could say, oh, it's perfect, the community and the police are always on great terms. The thought's laughable. There's more work that needs to be done, and that starts with an effective CPRB. One that has the budget to reach out to the community. One that has the power to call for an independent investigation when there are concerns about potential misconduct. It's a common sense solution, and it really could be a win-win. And if the community he would feel safer knowing that the police are meaningfully held accountable. And if the police are really as great as you all seem to laud them for every time you get the chance, then they should welcome this suggestion because it will only confirm what you already say about them. And so please, when considering future budgets, we need to move a significant portion of MPD's operating budget to the CPRB. It's high past time. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any others regarding items not on the agenda?
Good evening. I'm aware about item 10 on the agenda, but I'm not here to speak about that. I'm here to speak about how it was handled in the survey. It was handled very terribly because there was no context provided as to why people were being asked about this mask ordinance. And if you look at the survey results, the majority of people weren't even aware of its existence in the first place. They were just simply asked, are you aware that this exists? Most people said no. Then I'd ask, do you support it? And common sense will say, oh, yeah, that would make our community safer. Yeah, I support it. Without being given the context as to why they're being asked, is the context that peaceful protesters who did nothing wrong besides wearing a mask were arrested and charged with a crime that, covering your face? They need to be given that context. A real survey would have asked them, are you aware of this exists? Do you support it? Then provided the context and then asked them again, do you still support it? That's how you actually do a survey. So it's wrong. It's like three strikes law. The three strikes law sounded like common sense. Oh yeah, if someone's repeatedly committing a crime, yeah, we should be putting them away for forever, basically. And yet, you see how it's been used through history is disproportionately putting black people into prisons for something as simple as marijuana possession. It sounds like common sense law, common sense regulation, but at the end of the day, it's just being used to violate people's rights, and that is just that's what I just find completely just ridiculously terrible. So yeah, just be more honest with people when you're surveying them. We give them the context as to why they're being asked these questions. So yeah, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, my name is Harlan Diven. I'm a resident of Modesto. I'm not speaking on item 10. I'm speaking beyond item 10 right now. I'll speak on item 10 later. I'm calling for an investigation into what happened on June 14th. Arrests were made only at the ISAP protests. We've talked about this at length. Organizers were targeted. People who speak out in these meetings were targeted. Bones were broken, and no investigation has been made public yet. We have a private investigatory body that we could work with. We're not working with them to look into what happened. The Community Police Review Board, their wishes are not being followed. The only wish that was followed was the survey. So I'm asking again, and I've been asking for an independent investigation into what happened on June 14th, why the mask ordinance was suddenly being used to target people at the Ice Out protest. I don't know why there's been no movement on this. I don't know why there's not more public outcry about this beyond the people in this room, because what happened was scary. It chilled speech, it chilled First Amendment protections, and it affected the citizens of Modesto. So that's all. I just wanted to make sure that that was heard, that was part of your minutes, and that you understand how badly this is needed right now. There's a lot of distrust that's fomenting against the police department as part of this, and it would be a good measure of good faith to get in front of this after 6 months, if you can, and look into what happened. Again, the Community Police Review Board doesn't have any teeth right now. That's another conversation, but they cannot authorize this investigation. Only this body can, and I ask that you do that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
I turned in a blue card for item 10. I want to make sure that it's okay that I also speak on an unrelated issue on public comment as well. before beginning?
Yes.
Okay. I want to give my support on the speaker who made a comment regarding the Christian prayer before the council meetings. Government should not establish a religion. Public prayers during city council meetings have all been Christian so far. Additionally, I've witnessed the city host Christian prayers at the City Hall Square right out front, where folks passing by or working downtown cannot avoid them. I am thinking, of course, of the people of other faiths who are excluded from these city events, but I'm also thinking of folks like myself who do not subscribe to any religion. Many of us have been harmed by the flavor of Christianity celebrated in these halls, and we should not be forced to relive that trauma whenever we wish to be involved in city government. It's unconstitutional, as far as I know, for now, of course, until the current federal administration elects a theocracy. But more so, it is exclusionary, and it tells citizens who are not Christian that you do not care for us and that you do not wish for us to be involved. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. All right.
Hello, good evening, City Council and Stanislaus community. My name is Laura Plasencia, and I'm a program manager with Valley Improvement Projects, a local community-based organization working on advancing social justice and environmental justice. I'm here today to speak on item 10 and to share my opposition with this mask ordinance.
Excuse me, that will have to wait until the item comes, which is coming right up.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments not regarding item 10? Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. Good evening, Mayor. I would like to make a public comment about the ICE activities that have been seen up in Stockton. There is currently ICE is using a facility up in Stockton to detain people who come in for their immigration appointments unfairly and without due process. People who are watching the ICE facility have reported people being detained in Homeland Security vans. Just today, there were people reported being taken in a Homeland Security van, screaming and crying, obviously not wanting to be there. So I ask the Modesto City Council, I know this is, it's not, Stockton, but I am asking Modesto City Council to use your political power, your social power and privilege to do whatever you can to get immigration, custom enforcement, Homeland Security out of Stockton, out of the Central Valley. We have people on the ground who are observing them, making sure people who are detained are being kept track of. It is not uncommon for people who are detained to essentially be kidnapped and have their whereabouts be unknown. People have been shipped off to the detainment facility. I believe it's in Fresno. I could be wrong about that. But people are being kidnapped and sent to essentially, what's the word? Detainment centers, to concentration camps, essentially, with the condition that people are forced to live in those places. So I'm asking City Council to use their power, whatever it may be, to address this situation, talk to Stockton City Council, get them to get ICE out of Stockton and to get the people who have been unfairly detained back to their families. There was a woman who came to the ICE facility in Stockton who was crying because her husband had been detained and she didn't know, where he is, where he was. So I'm asking you, please use your power, whatever it may be, to get ICE out of the Stockton facility and away from the families that they are trying to kidnap. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other? All right.
Good evening to the mayor and the Modesto City Council, individual Stanislaus County. My name is Dr. Samuel White Ephraim, E-P-H-R-A-I-M, and I'm not going to speak on item 10 at this time, but I do want to say this. that I do feel safe living in the city of Modesto because of the men and women that wear the badge, that ride the fire trucks, that go to the fires. Oftentimes these individuals are ostracized, but the same individuals that are ostracizing them, these men and women who are in law enforcement would not hesitate to run into harm's way to save you or one of your family loved ones. So I think it's something that we need to also recognize that as well and appreciate that what they do, because at nighttime they want to go home just like anybody else, but often the times it doesn't happen that way. My cousin was the first officer shot in the line of duty in the city of Merced. He was an officer who dealt with gang violence. Officer Stefan Gray is his name. So I just want individuals to recognize and to realize that these men...
Talk to the mayor.
I'm talking to everybody.
Talking to the
All right.
I'm
Yeah.
talking to everybody in
Against the
here.
rules.
Excuse me. Anyhow, as I was saying, I want you to appreciate what they do for you and your family and your loved ones. And I'm glad to tell someone that I live in the city of Modesto, California, not Modesto, Illinois, or not Modesto, Brazil. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anyone else for items not on the agenda? All right. Next on the agenda is consent items. An item may be removed from consent and discussed at the request of a member of the public or council member. Is there anyone on the council that would like a consent item removed for further discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone in the public that would like an item removed from consent for further discussion or comment? And I have one card for item 2 to be removed from the agenda to discuss. Will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Item 1, consider approving the minutes for the November 25th, 2025 council meeting. Item 2 was removed from consent. Item 3, consider approving a fourth amendment to the legal services agreement with Swingle Van Egmond Heitlinger for continued representation in tort cases to adjust hourly rates and increasing the amount by $250,000. And fifth amendment to the legal services agreement with Sanders Roberts LLP for continued representation in personnel matters, increasing the agreement amount by $200,000. Item 4, consider accepting the West Trunk Sewer Rehabilitation Project as complete, releasing securities, releasing payments totaling $19,069,333 to SAK Construction LLC out of O'Fallon, Missouri, and authorizing the city clerk to file a notice of completion. Item 5, consider accepting the monthly investment report for September 2025. Item 6, consider accepting an informational report on the September and October 2025 grant applications and awards. Item 7, consider accepting an informational report for the October 2025 accounts payable payment register and void report. Item 8, consider approving the payment for furnishings of street sweeping material receiving service and citywide disposal services with various garbage disposal businesses located in Stanislaus County for a total amount not to exceed $5,150,000 over 5 years. Item 9, consider approving the third amendment with Brightview Golf Maintenance Incorporated, Modesto, California, in partnership with Kemper Sports Management, Northbrook, Illinois, for golf management and maintenance services, increasing the agreement amount by $6,612,832 and extending the term of the agreement from December 31st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026, with a 1-year extension option from January 1st, 2027 to December 31st, 2027.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as read?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Alvarez, seconded by Councilmember Williams. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia-Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwallen.
Aye, carries unanimously. We will go back to consent item 2. Consider approving final adoption of ordinance 3803-C.S, amending section 25-3-9 of the zoning map of the city of Modesto to rezone from highway commercial zone to low-density residential zone, property located at 3401 North McClure Road. And we will now have a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, Jessica Hill, Director of Community
community and economic development. So this is the final reading of the ordinance, which is rezoning about a 4-acre parcel at 34-1 North McClure into 38 single-family homes and changing the zoning from highway commercial to low-density residential. The project ultimately will serve low-income households who make under 80% of the area median income and will be sold for home ownership.
All right, thank you very much for your report. Does council have any questions of staff regarding consent item 2? Seeing none, we will hear from members of the public, and we have one card for this item from Milt.
Yes, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to point out that this would have been one of those areas in Modesto where it would have been an ideal time to build up and not out. She stated that was a 4-acre parcel, I believe, 4 or 5 acre parcel. You're going to get 36 homes on it if you'd built up. And it's a good location to build up, and it would have been a good location for affordable housing also, because it's in an area just along, well, yeah, it's in a perfect area for building that kind of property. You change it from C3 to R1. You could have changed it from C3 to R3, and we could have put some 2 or 3 story apartment complexes in there and probably got 200 units or more in that same location. And this is what we have to think about, because when we put in these single family developments, we're actually taking away the property that's going to save our farmland. If we're going to grow, we still want to grow. I'm not against growth. I'm not against the builders building 10-story buildings all over the place. 6-story more realistically, 3 or 4 probably is what would happen. But we've got to get to this point where we are not growing, and this is the time to do it. And this would have been a perfect time. I'm sorry I didn't know about this when it came up before, or I would have spoken at that time. But again, I say I know we can do this, you know we can do this, and now's the time to do it. We must save our prime farmland in Stanislaus County. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments regarding consent item 2?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm just completely against low-density housing in general right now, because our housing prices are ridiculous. Rent is ridiculous. We should be focusing on high-density apartment complexes, multifamily homes, not suburbia, more suburbia. I'm tired of suburbia. I want to live in a community where I can just walk down the street, ride my bicycle, and go grocery shopping, and then come home without having to drive literally everywhere. This is just the biggest problem that we have, that I have right now with living in the cities here in California. If we really want to see housing prices go down, we need to build more high-density apartment complexes, properties that are more affordable for people. There's enough single-family homes out there already, but a lot of them are being hoarded by big corporations and people that buy them just to rent them out to make a profit. Landlords are profiting off of these ridiculous housing prices, and they're just hoarding all the homes and hoarding all the wealth. And yeah, I'm just completely against more single-family zoning. Let's see more high density, especially in Modesto. I feel like Modesto can be a great city to live in if we just start building more high density housing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great.
Sorry, my left hand has fallen asleep. So, I wanted to respond to what the first gentleman said a few moments ago. I'm definitely in accord with him on this, and there seems to be a preeminent attitude here in the valley that, well, all of the farms have, been used up anyway, so we might as well just continue down that slippery slope and just go ahead and develop and use up all the farmland that's left, because there isn't anything left anyway. And I just wanted to caution the council not to fall into that trap. Don't fall into the trap of believing that, well, all the farmland's been used up anyway, so we might as well just go ahead and develop and do low-density housing not really care about the farmland anymore because it's basically gone anyway. You know, that kind of fatalistic attitude that, you know, we're just basically a suburb of the Bay Area, and we just got to accept the fact that, you know, we've got to make progress now. We've got to develop all over the place without thinking of the future. I'm just cautioning you not to fall into that trap, and listen to what the gentleman was saying, that we do need to build up and not out, and protect the farmland, and think of the future generations. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other comments regarding this item?
I'll echo what the previous speaker said, and I know that development's not easy. Having served on Modesto's housing committee before, I know that it's hard to attract developers. In particular, I'd say I want to know more about what we're doing to try and attract high-density developers, because it seems like every time there's a project, we always say, oh, yeah, we want to move towards something that might be high density in the future, but it seems like it's just one after the other. There are great things going on with housing. The city's done positive work, and I'm thankful for the work y'all have done in that domain. And I don't want to discredit the work that has been done. We're getting people off the streets that otherwise would not have a place to go, and that's something to celebrate. But I think we'd have even more to celebrate if we could really find a way to attract high-density developers. I don't know if that's tax breaks for them, if it's financial incentives, if it's rezoning things. I've never been on the zoning commission, but based on the CPRB, I'd say the recommendations don't seem to matter, so just rezone it if you have to. I'd really like to see some high-density development. I think it could go a long way. I grew up in a big family, and I was always told that nobody gets seconds till everybody's had firsts, and we're definitely not bringing that model to housing. When I look out at the land in the country, I grew up where our next door neighbor was a quarter mile away, so I'm not lost on the idea of growing up near farmland and the value that that brings to our community. That in so many ways is our lifeblood, and we always champion that. But I wonder if we're doing enough to really stand up for that. And I say that really not as a criticism, but truly hoping that we can dream a better dream for what the future of Modesto's housing looks like, and then make that dream real, because there are a lot of cities doing a lot of great work with smart urbanism. I know there's members of this council that are really interested in that kind of field, and I think that we should be bringing in the kind of developers that we need to make that change. Whether we need to bring in consultants, I don't know. I feel like we kind of already know what we need to do. It's high density. I don't know that we need to pay a consultant to tell us what we already know. But at present time, whether it needs to go through a consultant or maybe we need a survey, I don't know. But what I do know is that we need more housing, and housing stock is not easy to come with. I know that y'all can't wave a magic wand and just create units. If you could, we wouldn't have people on the street. I get that in a lot of ways you're already working hard there, but I wonder if we're working hard in the right way, if there's a different angle we could take. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Further public comment on item 2?
Hi, good evening, Council. I also didn't realize that this was on the agenda until the previous speakers and seeing it on here. But I would like to reiterate what some of the previous people had said too about supporting more high density and mixed use development as opposed to continuing on with the single family homes. Certainly there's a place for that, but this is clearly an opportunity where we can do something different. There are a number of benefits to high-density mixed-use development. First of all, you can get more housing units per acre. Secondly, it generates more tax revenue per square foot when you do high-density mixed-use development where you're putting residential above and commercial on the ground level, for example, than you do with traditional types of development where you have to allocate a certain amount of on-site parking that's just nothing but free parking. It's not generating any revenue. But as we continue to build nothing but single-family homes and large shopping centers, you have to provide that parking space because everybody has to drive. When you have low-density residential, you can't support a public transit system on that because you don't have enough density around each of those transit hubs to be able to justify that public transit. So cutting through high density mixed use development, It encourages more walking, it encourages more biking and less driving. That's better for air quality. It's better for encouraging people to do more physical incorporating more physical activity into our daily lives. So you may not see that, this is one project, so you may look at it and think, well, it's only one project. We can do this one this way. And then, as the previous speaker said, we'll talk about high density further down. But every time you forego an opportunity to do a high density project, you're just kicking the can further down the street. And before you know it, we're going to look like Orange County here, and that would be a real shame. So anyway, I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Right.
Juan Tellez, West Modesto resident. I'm also an advocate for high-density development, but also I wanted to invite folks to also communicate these thoughts at the general plan meetings that are coming up. Tuesday, December 16th from 5:30 to 7 at Stanislaus County Harvest Hall. That'll be a perfect opportunity to share some of this stuff so it gets on the general plan. Among two other opportunities on Wednesday and Thursday of that same week at the Modesto Center Plaza and the Stanislaus County Veterans Service Office. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Right. Seeing no one else at this time, I will close public comments on this item. Are there any questions or comments from council members regarding item 2? Seeing none, I need a motion approving final adoption of ordinance 3803-CS, amending section 25-3-9 of the zoning map of the City of Modesto to rezone from highway commercial zone to low-density residential zone, property located at 3401 North McClure Road. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, motion by Vice Mayor Bavaro, second by Councilmember Wright. And will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Scutia-Brayton.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Swellen.
Aye, carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is council comments and reports. Councilmember Alvarez.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just be brief tonight. I just want to invite the community and let the community know that tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., the South Modesto Businesses United is hosting their annual Christmas Posada. And they are giving out free toys for children. My colleagues Rosa, Escutia-Brayton, Jeremiah Williams, and David Wright, and you, Mayor, later on in the evening. We typically see each other there and enjoy a cup of hot chocolate. And families can also expect a free grocery bag while supplies last. And typically this event turns out, about 1,000 plus folks. And I think it's a really good opportunity for folks to know that and to even make it larger attendance this year. So that's about it, Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. A clarification for Gladys Williams. First and foremost, thank you, NAACP, for bringing that to light. There will be a service, but it will be in February the 20th at 11 o'clock at 825 7th Street. There will be a service for Gladys Williams. She has been cremated, and there will be a celebration of life. Again, that is February the 20th, 11 o'clock, 825 7th Street in the city of Modesto. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Ricky.
Thanks, Mayor. If you're tired of having an animal shelter that doesn't make its priority to serve the public and doesn't take responsibility for managing feral animal populations, I'm putting together a Fix Salsa team. Together, we're going to work to compel Stanislaus Animal Services to change their policies. We know what they don't do. They don't have a spay and neuter program. They don't have a TNR program. We know SASA's vet services are at best sus. SASA blindly follows a capacity of care system with no public support for it and operates with a blatant disregard for the volunteer rescues that end up forced to support this arbitrary policy. Bottom line is that SALSA needs to be restructured into a nonprofit model. We need an animal service agency that makes caring about animals in our community their priority. Also, you've asked for it. Mancini Park is next up for a new playground. City of Modesto is harnessing Measure H to upgrade parks, and it's about time that we got to Mancini Park. It's one of the best things about the job when we can deliver on things that people feel like the community needs. And finally, I just wanted to respond to some of the issues about Center Plaza we've been hearing about for the last couple weeks at council, and just say, like, Center Plaza's main weakness is its $30 million in deferred maintenance. And this is on top of the $1 million a year deficit that it's losing in staffing costs. So the main issue with Center Plaza is a math problem. And there just aren't a lot of good ways out there. Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome. Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Thank you, Mayor. To piggyback on the doctor's comments regarding the safety in Modesto, yesterday I had a ride-along, actually my 13th ride-along with the Modesto Police Department. Yesterday I rode along with the crime reduction team. The CRT consists of 6 Modesto police officers and 1 sergeant. Most of the CRT also serves on our SWAT team. Among the many crime reduction tasks with CRT, CRT also investigates neighborhood problems, neighborhood drug dealers, complaints, and removing illegal fireworks or firearms off our streets. So this unit consists of 6, is going to be moved up to 8, and they are actually keeping our neighborhoods safe by patrolling in the specific areas in our neighborhoods. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other council comments and reports? I appreciate that the general plan update community meetings were mentioned this evening. That plan will drive our goals and everything in the future for the city of Modesto. It is called 2050 General Plan Update Community Meetings. The last one was in 1995. So this is a big deal, and it's really important. And as was mentioned, there will be 3 of them, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings of December 16th, 17th, and 18th, all 3 from 5:30 to 7 p.m. The Tuesday night one, as was mentioned, at Stanislaus County Harvest Hall. The Wednesday night meeting at Modesto Center Plaza, and the Thursday evening Stanislaus County Veterans Service Office. I had the opportunity to serve meals at the Modesto Gospel Mission last Wednesday for not a very long time, but it was a worthwhile time for sure to spend time there and see people so happy receiving a warm meal. On Monday, I went to Chief Wise, our fire chief's retirement flag ceremony. It was in Oakdale. That was where he started his career with the city of Modesto, with our consolidated fire department, I should say. And he raised, it's the same flag. When a fire department personnel has their first day in service, they raise their flag. They bring the same flag on the last day, and then it is theirs. And it was very sweet to be there for that time with him. We last night had our South Modesto Business United tree lighting, and that beautiful tree you see at the corner of Crow's Landing and Hatch is lit every year, and it's fun to participate in that. That's my report. Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, I want to add something in regards to the general plan that was mentioned. As the chairman of the appointments committee, we appoint folks to different commissions and committees throughout the city to serve in a variety of capacities based on their experience. And I want to take this moment to invite those relevant committees and commissioners, committee members and commissioners to attend these events, to share their valuable insight and experience, and to contribute to the overall planning as we develop that going forward. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Does the city manager have any comments and reports? All right, thank you. Next is new business, item 10. Consider approving an urgency ordinance and non-urgency ordinance amending the City of Modesto Municipal Code Title IV, Chapter 23, restrictions on use of specified items during public assembly, providing various revisions to the time, place, and manner regulations as to public assemblies. And we will begin with our city attorney, Jose Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council members, Jose Sanchez, city attorney. Before you are two ordinances, an urgency ordinance and a regular ordinance amending the city's municipal code, Title IV, Chapter 23, as the mayor mentioned, entitled Restrictions on the Use of...
Excuse me. I think you'll have to speak directly into the microphone so everyone can hear. Is it on?
Test. Oh, thank you.
Is that better?
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
So before you are two ordinances, an urgency ordinance and a regular ordinance amending the city's municipal code, Title IV, Chapter 23, entitled Restrictions on the Use of Specified Items During Public Assembly. Both ordinances propose the same amendments to the municipal code. As the council is aware, given that amendments to these regulations involve an analysis of the First Amendment, the city retained Deborah Fox with Myers-Nave as special counsel for assistance. Ms. Fox is the chair of Myers-Nave's statewide First Amendment and trial and litigation practice groups. She is one of California's foremost experts on First Amendment issues, particularly those affecting the public sector. Her and her team are also familiar with the original public assembly provisions the city adopted in 2019. I will now turn it over to Ms. Fox to provide the council with a brief background on the current public assembly provisions, the changes being proposed, and the summary of the legal standards for this item. We will also have the police chief provide information regarding Modesto's experience. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, members of the council, and members of the audience. I thank you for that kind introduction, City Attorney Sanchez. I should add, I have been an attorney for some number of years. I don't think I should publicly disclose them all, but at least 3 decades. I am a constitutional lawyer. I do specialize in the First Amendment. I have litigated constitutional cases in the First Amendment in every district court in the state of California. I have litigated in the Ninth Circuit. I have written briefs for the United States Supreme Court. And as well, I've had the privilege of drafting various ordinances for various communities throughout our state. Tonight, we bring to you, after much thoughtful analysis, revisions to the provisions of Chapter 23 that regulate public protests within the public right-of-way, public assemblies. This ordinance brought before you clarifies the exceptions for the city's provision limiting face coverings. It offers additional factual support for the face covering limitation. It provides detailed findings. You can see in the ordinance, sections A through Z and AA, a very detailed support for the experience of Modesto, offering case law discussion along with its application to Modesto. As well, we've offered additional support for limiting objects that can be and have been used and converted into weapons for violence at public protests. We'll offer additional support for limiting tactical gear and related clothing. All of this is aimed at making public protests safe and available to all. These provisions were originally adopted back in 2019. My office and myself and Margaret Rosequist crafted them. They were amended by your city in 2021. We've received various objections by the ACLU, the NAACP, the First Amendment Coalition, and others. Those have all been considered in the provision of the ordinance that's before you. We've received additional comments from the ACLU. Copies of that letter are posted behind me for any of the public. This council have reviewed the recommendations of the Community Police Review Board, as well the community-wide survey by Probloski Research. As well, I know you've entertained many public comments, as you have already this evening, from the public on this provision. Myers-Nave was retained by the city to help in the First Amendment area, and we have worked very closely with your city team. You've had the expertise not only of Myers-Nave, your city attorney, your police chief, along with your city manager. These folks have extensive experience and firsthand knowledge of what happens in the public right-of-ways, at public protests, and the experience of Modesto. Most of you are familiar with the various protests. We've had the straight pride, we've had anti-police violent protests, we've had no kings, we've had ice outs. The city strives to preserve peaceful protest. The city's interest is protecting not only the safety of the community, the businesses, the protesters, observers, the public safety officers, along with the press. These provisions are critically important. They balance the various interests at play. The city has been proactive. It doesn't want to adopt a wait-and-see approach. Unfortunately, we live in times with very divisive political views on a number of issues, and it is important to have clear regulations to keep the peace. We are going to hear from Chief Gillespie of his expertise and the need for these provisions. You'll hear and you'll see in the ordinance some discussion of the issue of reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. And I'm sorry, I think I might have gotten my slides out of order. And what we have done here is refine the provisions so there is clarity to all, defining the scope of the religious exemption, defining the scope of the medical exemption, and clarifying that the provision about no mask does not apply to costumes. The whole purpose is to reduce violence and vandalism, to limit the individuals who might mask themselves to be committing violent acts, to be anonymous, and to avoid accountability. There are numerous photos that you'll see from the events in Modesto of folks with face coverings, and I think it's a good time for the chief to walk us through and explain some of the safety issues at play that drive this need for this revision.
Thank you, Ms. Fox, and good evening, Mayors Wallen and council members. I want to thank you for the opportunity to walk you through the Modesto Police Department's experience with public protests in our community and the importance of maintaining, along with the recommended refinements, Modesto's Public Assembly Ordinance. Tonight, I'm going to show you why these provisions matter, how they've worked, and why these clarifications are not only appropriate, but essential to ensuring peaceful public assemblies and protecting our community and our officers. Since 2019, Modesto has seen numerous demonstrations, many of them peaceful, but several were marked by escalating conflicts between protesters and counter-protesters. As we walk through the slides, you will see real images from our city, taken from officers' body cameras, city cameras, drones, and publicly available photos or videos. They clearly demonstrate why the ordinance was created and why it remains necessary. And this first photo is from the 2020 Black Lives Matter George Floyd protest. The event began as a peaceful march of around 1,000 participants traveling from downtown, down McHenry, and then back to downtown. As officers monitored the crowd, we noticed some individuals, like the individual circled here, wearing face coverings, concealing their identity. At the end of the march, a few hundred individuals remained downtown, surrounded a police car, and were blocking intersections. The tone of this group had shifted significantly, and ultimately, we were forced to declare an unlawful assembly. These two photos show one of the subjects wearing a balaclava and the other one wearing a full-face ski mask, and standing directly in front of our officers after dispersal orders were issued. We observed similar items and tactics during the straight pride rallies, and these are 2020 photos showing some of the fully masked protesters, as well as two of them with hard shell helmets, one of them being a riot helmet with a face shield, and all but one of these these photos are wearing tactical vests. This image is from an anti-police violence protest in April of 2021. The subject on the right is waving an Antifa flag, wearing a tactical vest, and has an umbrella secured to his leg. Both individuals are wearing face coverings covering their identity. In this 2021 Straight Pride rally, the photo shows the Proud Boys wearing face coverings, concealing their identities as well. And these are the photos of the 5 protesters who were arrested at the June 14th Ice Out protest this year, wearing face coverings to conceal their identities. This photo shows a subject who identified himself as being from Chicago. Officers stopped him as he entered the protest area wearing a tactical vest and advised him that the vest was prohibited. Inside that vest that he willingly took out was a large block of wood, placed there to protect himself against violence from his opponents. And rather than me explaining why he was dressed in this gear, this video I'm about to show you speaks for itself. His frustration makes clear that he arrived planning to be battle ready.
No problem. For the north and south instead of just hanging out on clear.
I will drop this off, and when Antifa shoots me or kills me, I'll come after you and you and you. Because apparently I'm not allowed to protect myself, right? Yes or no? Are you agreeing to the fact that if I get hurt out here on the street...
You're not allowed to wear body armor.
I understand
or
that.
tactical vest.
Okay.
So over the years, these events have ranged from hundreds to thousands of participants. At some of the protests, Modesto became a destination for groups who were not here simply to express their viewpoint. They came intending to intimidate, antagonize, and engage in physical conflict. We have consistently enforced our municipal code, prohibiting certain items at public assemblies. And as this video and the next few examples show, we first try to provide education and warnings whenever possible. In the next video, you're going to see 2 officers warning a subject, and you'll see this subject come into view on the left side of your screen, who's wearing a balaclava. Again, our goal is to gain compliance, and you will see in this video others that are wearing your typical medical-style mask that are not addressed because those have never been a target of what we see in this prohibition.
Thank you. Whoever's trying to do that, thank you. Because we do have an ordinance against these types of masks wearing. Okay. To be a medical type of mask. I would appreciate it. All about it.
Again, compliance is what we strive for. In the next video, you're going to see a subject wearing a full face shield, and one of our officers also providing a warning to this subject.
So the Modesto City Code specifies that there's no, face shield or any type of mask beside medical mask. So I'm asking you, if you want a face mask, if you want a medical mask, we'll provide you a medical mask. Okay, I'm telling you what the law is.
And then these next 2 videos, they show what our officers faced in the 2020 Black Lives Matter George Floyd protest at the end after that rally and the several hundred that stayed behind. I want you to notice as we watch this video, the multiple water bottles being thrown at our officers as they work to free our patrol car from the crowd that had surrounded it. Now imagine that those water bottles were glass or metal. The injuries to our officers and the bystanders could have been very severe. And here's another video of just a short time after that. I want you to notice at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a subject in white that'll come on screen. Initially didn't have anything covering his face. He's now taking a piece of clothing and covering it around his head to conceal his identity. During the Straight Pride events, opposing groups have used Modesto as their battleground. In this 2021 video, the Proud Boys and Antifa, many of them using masks to conceal their identity, intimidate and fight each other, using anonymity to try to avoid accountability. And I should have said this at the very beginning for those either watching online or in the audience. Obviously, some of these videos can be graphic. There's some language that some may find offensive, so I apologize for that, but I want to show exactly what our officers deal with at these rallies. At the 2022 Straight Pride protest, counter-protesters arrived early to take over the area around Planned Parenthood. When Straight Pride participants began to arrive, the following clash erupted. Initiated by the subject here in the white on your screen, you can see in the middle of the screen, who had his face concealed with a mask, and you'll see what happens. He throws a water bottle and initiates this fight. In addition to the masked subject initiating the fight, this subject at the bottom of your screen with the red arrow is using a sign mounted to a wooden stick as a weapon. So here he is kind of in a batter stance. Here's the next photo showing him actually hitting somebody with that stick. And then this final image shows that same subject with the stick in his hand on the left. And then the middle of your screen with the subject and the dark pants and the white sleeves with a face covering to conceal his identity is at the front of the crowd, starting obviously engaging in a fight. This is a good example of how just a few people or even a single person can instigate a crowd, and doing it under the cover of anonymity can embolden people even more. This is a bystander video showing another angle right after that initial fight I just showed. And I want you to notice the explosive device going off in the bushes after being thrown by a counter-protester, and objects being thrown, including a glass bottle that explodes on the ground near a citizen's truck who's just trying to drive down McHenry Avenue. This video is a later video from the same Straight Pride rally in 2022 after we declared an unlawful assembly and protesters refused to disperse. As I play this video, I want you to take note of a subject. He's going to be on the middle right side of your screen, who has an umbrella. In the middle, you'll see on the middle right, an umbrella, and he's using it as a shield to obstruct lawful police action. See him going up to the top, kind of right of your screen right there. And finally, the still image on your left is from an officer's body camera showing that it's a still photo of that same action you just saw, showing that same subject using the umbrella on a shield. It's circled there, the left photo, but on the right of that photo. Also notice the same masked subject from the original fight, now front and center and obstructing officers from carrying out their lawful duty there on the left of that same photo. The image on the right shows another subject in the crowd using an umbrella as a shield as well. Mayor and Council, these images and videos are examples of what our officers have faced over the years. We have seen organized groups, individuals, and opposing factions post increasingly aggressive rhetoric online, arrive fully prepared physically and tactically to confront one another, our officers, in our streets. Even with strong preparation, warnings, and education to gain voluntary compliance, we still saw violence in 2020, 2021, and 2022. Several of these incidents required declarations of unlawful assembly, but the most critical point I want you to understand is this. Had we not had this ordinance in place and enforced it consistently, the violence would have been significantly worse. These photos show exactly what people brought or intended to bring to these events, and they include hard-shell helmets used as body armor, which could have also been used as impact weapons, tactical vests used for protection or to conceal objects like the wood block that you observed, face coverings used to hide identities, intimidate, and avoid accountability for criminal acts, umbrellas used as shields to obstruct officers, objects thrown at officers and opposing groups. These are not hypotheticals. These are documented incidents from Modesto. Modesto has enforced this ordinance responsibly and consistently, starting with education and warnings, and escalating to enforcement when necessary. When violence or illegal behavior has occurred, we have quickly intervened and made arrests as needed or when possible. That swift action has sent a clear message. Modesto is not the place to show up ready to fight. And that message has worked. Since 2022, violations and violent incidents at protests have declined notably because the people know that Modesto will not take a wait-and-see approach to violence and will enforce our law and our municipal code. Without this ordinance, the disorder that you've seen in these slides would be far more frequent and far more dangerous. And when we talk about chilling First Amendment rights, there's no doubt that plenty of people would choose not to show up, who chose not to show up at these events for their First Amendment rights when people are allowed to attend ready to fight, intimidate, and conceal their identities. Let me be absolutely clear. We support the right to peacefully protest. We protect that right every day. But the First Amendment does not protect violence, intimidation, the use of weapons, or attempts to conceal identity to avoid accountability for criminal acts. Courts have consistently upheld content-neutral time, place, and manner restrictions when they are designed to protect public safety. The refinements before you tonight do not expand enforcement, they clarify it. They provide clear medical mask exemptions, clear religious exemptions, a clear exemption for costumes, clarified umbrella rules allowing for use in rain and extreme heat, and clarification on soft shell versus hard shell helmets. These changes give both the public and law enforcement the clarity needed to ensure fairness, consistency, and safety. We are seeing a resurgence of protest activity statewide and nationally. Issues like immigration, geopolitics, and deeply polarized social topics continue to draw intense reactions. The risk of confrontations is rising, not falling. This ordinance does not limit speech. It limits dangerous items and behaviors that have already caused violence in our city. And our own experience shows that consistent enforcement of this ordinance reduces violence. The right to protest must be protected, but so must our residents, our businesses, and our officers, and the individuals who want to express their views without fear. This ordinance does both. It ensures that anyone, no matter their viewpoint, can stand on a sidewalk in Modesto and express their beliefs without being attacked, surrounded, or confronted by masked, armored individuals looking for a fight. Thank you.
Right. Go ahead, continue with the report.
Thank you, Chief. Those images were very impactful. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video probably 10,000. I wanted to go through the actual language of the ordinance that is being clarified here. And so on the screen is the beginning of Chapter 23. The language that is not bolded is the language that currently exists. So it provides that no person shall utilize, carry, or possess the following items or articles while attending or participating in any demonstration, rally, protest, counter-protest, picket line, march, or public assembly. And then it talks about the wearing of masks or other items covering the face, shielding the wearer's face from view, and concealing the identity. Coverings worn for religious beliefs and practices or observance have always been exempt, as the chief noted. This is now specifically defined so everyone is clear about what that includes, and the new language is what we see in bold. For purposes of this section, the religious exemption will apply to any individual wearing a religious garment that covers their face, and then we give some examples or the functional equivalent. Notice that some of these items may be religious but don't cover the face. The issue is if you're wearing it and it's covering your face. Similarly, there's an exemption and always has been for medical necessity. As the chief said, it's always been the practice in Modesto to try to get compliance. You could see in the Straight Pride Parade, you had the LGBTQ with the rainbows across their mask. Those were surgical masks. Those were not a problem. The problem was the face covering of the ski mask all over the face. Again, the bolded text is the amendments. The medical necessity is now defined to apply to any individuals who are wearing medical grade masks, including but not limited to, and again, we define those specific masks and the functional equivalent. So if anyone says, I have a medical mask, but it's not an N95, it's clear that that is indeed exempt. But baklavas, ski masks, or the like are not exempt. And as well, again, it was always the ordinance as construction, and it's stated in the original ordinance in 2019 that it did not apply to costumes, and we have specifically defined that it doesn't apply to costumes that obscure the face. So those would include costumes worn on Halloween or Mardi Gras. Those would include those, those dancing frogs that we've seen in Portland, or the functional equivalent. Tactical gear. We saw some examples in the images that the chief showed us. They are used for intimidation. They tend to escalate and inflame and divide and inflame already divisive groups. We saw that individual with that thick square board inside his tactical vest. This is the battle-ready mentality that we do not want for peaceful protests. The city is interested in making sure that protesters feel safe to come out. Many of us know have gone to public protests, but we select the areas so that we know we're safe, that our children are safe when we want to come to the streets and express our First Amendment rights. Weaponizing certain items, again, I think we've discussed this adequately, and we've seen in the videos how those items are used as weapons and converted from their intended use. Here is the language that we've added. Again, in bold is the new language for hard shell helmets, so that we're specifying helmets that can be used as an object of violence, not soft shell bike helmets. Also talking about an umbrella can be used in rain or in extreme heat, which we sometimes have here in Modesto. The ordinance that we've provided in the findings has a lot of legal discussion. It was the result of an exhaustive review by the city team you put together. We provided reasonable time, place, and manner provisions. I think the chief has spoken of it, but it bears repeating here that these revisions are done in order to provide clear guidance to a person of reasonable intelligence of what they can do and not do at a public protest. It also provides the chief and his officers with clear guidelines to the enforcement. So again, clarity and even-handedness is the goal. It's the city's substantial interest in protecting the residents, the businesses, the protesters, the observers and the like from violence, and safeguarding the property of the residents and businesses. And it is important that the city rely on its experience. In this legislative body, it's charged with understanding your community. The whole purpose is to make public protests safer. And with that, we are recommending that the council adopt the urgency ordinance and move that along with moving and introducing the first reading of the ordinance. As City Attorney Lopez noted, these ordinances are mirrored word for word. The first is an urgency ordinance, which would go into effect immediately if adopted. That way, if there is an upcoming protest, everyone can be clear about the provisions that are at play, and this ordinance as an urgency measure would be effective immediately, as opposed to the first and second reading and effect upon 30 days of a regular ordinance. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that presentation. Do you have any other part of the presentation? All right. So does council have any questions of staff regarding item 10? No questions? All right. I just have one question, and that would be, from the way this is outlined, I just want to clarify that we can rely on our own city's experiences, and that the intention is public safety. That seems to be a lot of these things would refer to anywhere in the country, but this sounds like we can, in fact, look to our specific unique situation in the city of Modesto to make protests safer.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, that's correct. You can rely on the experiences that you understand in your community, and you also can have a reasonable basis to draw on the experiences of other communities that you think are reflective of what may occur in Modesto. And the governmental interest at play is public safety.
Right. Thank you for that clarification. All right, so we will now open item 10 up to the public. And the first card, I will read them in the order that I received them, is Teresa Gamboa. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayors Wallen, Council, City Managers, staff, members of the public. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this item. Chief, Ms. Fox, thank you so much for that excellent presentation, very informative. My name is Teresa Gamboa. I am the chairwoman of Woodland West Community and a neighborhood watch coordinator. I was on McHenry in 2022. I was across the street from the Planned Parenthood building where that violence occurred. I saw the water bottles flying through the air, people wearing black masks, black hoodies, the black umbrellas, and there was a woman speaking, leading the crowd in chants, and the mask mandate needs to stay in place. I support what they've come up with. It needs to stay in place to deter this kind of activity in our city and to keep us all safe. The people who are calling for the mask mandate to be lifted are protesting the very same things that people in other cities are protesting where violence is occurring. Law enforcement officers are put in danger every day because of this. If someone feels strongly enough about something to protest publicly, they need to protest showing their faces. Please keep the mask mandate in place. I support the ordinance. I want everyone in our city to feel safe, and this is a good avenue to it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is John X. Mataka.
John X. Mataka with Grayson Neighborhood Council. First, I want to say condolences to Gladys Williams' family, to her daughter, and may Allah be pleased with her. She's a very good sister, and she will be missed. On this item here that we're talking about right now, I found it interesting that the reason it came about was the arrest of those individuals, and none of those individuals, they all had masks on, but none of them, they didn't have a problem arresting them and finding out who the hell they were, because they took them down to the station and booked them. So the whole idea that because you got a mask on, hiding your identity doesn't keep you from being arrested and find out who you are. That's crazy. I don't understand that. The other thing, this incident about, I didn't see any destruction of property in none of those pictures that were shown. And that's one of the reasons why you're saying you're doing this. You know, I saw water bottles, I saw that. I understand some of the stuff, like the tactical vests and the sticks. Naturally, that's only common sense. I understand that part. But mask, that's another question. The thing about the holidays and the costumes is crazy. I don't know where the hell that came from. But all I know is if I decide that I'm going to do street theater one day, and I'm downtown by the Brendan Theater, and I'm Snow White, and I got a mask on and a costume and a dress, and I'm doing street theater, and people start coming around, does that give, you know, am I going to be harassed? They say no, but I doubt it. The other thing is that survey that supposedly was taken. To my understanding, 50% of the people that took that survey said they were in favor of the mandate. But yet the following question, they admitted that they knew nothing about it. So that is so ridiculous to say that you're for something, but you know not a single thing about it. And to use that as a reason to keep this going is not correct. It's crazy. So I'm not in support of this amendment. I'm support in deleting this whole ordinance. I believe that, you know, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. And I think that down the road, you're going to look back on this and you're going to say you should have just banned it and forgot about it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Next is, excuse me, Nora Garcia.
The city has talked all night about public safety, and this mask ban serves only two purposes. One, to make law enforcement's shift easier, and two, to give police a reason to abuse their power. The city has made it clear that no one in Modesto should expect privacy in public spaces. You boast of high-tech advancements and cameras on every corner, but with all this technology and with so much of our budget going to arming the police, are Modesto police officers so hopelessly incompetent that they need a redundant mask ordinance to effectively do their job? This ordinance was born out of violent escalations by white supremacists, and Chief Gillespie has shown examples of these escalations, but no one has made the distinction between the violent Proud Boys and the peaceful protesters that were arrested in June. To my knowledge, violent protesters at Straight Pride were not thrown brutally into the back of unmarked cars. They did not have their fingers broken. In fact, MPD fired crowd control attacks at counter-protesters, and it makes me wonder what kind of speech you're actually trying to protect. The city has frequently referenced demonstrations in other cities, and today in Modesto, painting a picture of violent, brick-throwing rioters burning the city to the ground. But that's only half the story, isn't it? Where are the images of law enforcement attacking protesters with tear gas? Where are the slides showing cops brutalizing journalists? If we're going to allow Brandon Gillespie to walk in here and lecture us about the threats at the hands of protesters, we also need to keep in mind the danger of giving law enforcement unchecked power. We cannot adopt a wait-and-see approach to police accountability and must demand that the city put in place protections for all voices against profiling and targeted attacks by police, who have been the only aggressors since the mask ordinance was on this platform. I can already hear the responses. That's not my job. I'm just a councilman. That's for the CPRB to decide. But you completely ignored the recommendation to remove the ban. And let's not forget the chief's attack against the board in the Modesto Bee. The item in question is the ban on face coverings, among other items, but the underlying issue is whether any of you acknowledge the significance of the ordinance in the context of fair policing. I noted some of you express a shadow of empathy when confronted with stories of MPD's past victims. Now that the item is on the table, you can demonstrate your basic decency and align with the true safety of your community, or you can confirm what we already suspect, that all you have to offer are crocodile tears and watered down discount bin version of humanity.
Great. Next is Steve.
Sad how perfectly that was put, and none of you care. Remember this guy? I'd like to remind you all, okay, that a lot of us that show up, we show up because we care about other people, we care about our rights and our freedoms, and you villainize us, but it just makes y'all look like clowns. I give both of you a B. That was fairly convincing, okay? But what I saw, what I'm watching, is very consistent and congruent with the pattern of everything I've always seen from you since I first stepped in this building. Back when you used to pretend that you would like support impacted families. Cute. Anyway, I see a dance. This is all just like forward together, right? You're faking it. Both of these new actions should be struck down. They should not be passed. You guys are just repeatedly showing this community that you would rather go to bat. By the way, we notice the similarities. Who'd they call in to get Joseph Lamontia off for murdering Trevor Seaver, which he clearly did on video? Experts. Who are those experts? Y'all's pals. Your pals. Stare at me. I'm scared. It's working. But I'm still right. So I have the moral high ground. You violent thug. You bully.
Steve, you remember?
Oh, that's right. Oh, thank you. I appreciate you reminding me about the rule that you remind me about usually. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the point is, this is a chance for you guys to at least put on airs, fake it till you make it, because we need you to defend democracy in this community. I can't protect my brain from a fascist if I go stand up for, say, Black Lives in Modesto, California. I was downtown. I saw the moment it escalated, and there were some pissed off protesters, but you know what I saw? I saw pissed off cops yelling at them. And then they repeated to yell at them. I saw instigation from the cops. I had one of those cops point a less lethal weapon at my face from a few feet away. There's a long-standing pattern of abuse and misconduct, and there are lives that are cost. All those cute little scenes that Brandon showed. I'd like to remind you, what were we protesting back in April? You guys have known the monster that Lamontia was for years. You've known all these things. Sam Muncie didn't need to kill the first person he killed. The report goes down that he was attacked by a glass object. His victims' families, I don't want to go on record, but I have read this, so I don't want to misquote anybody else that has way more stake in this. He threw a glass pot bong at a wall, and he lost his life for it. That guy maybe would not have taken Paul Chavez's life within, was it 23 or 26? I don't remember. But it was under 30 seconds of arrival, and he shot him dead for no damn reason while he rested on the lawn. You guys are not acting in good faith, and we're tired of your diet fascism.
All right, next is Michael Wood.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I would like to support the face mask ban. This helps to keep people accountable when they are protesting. There is no First Amendment right to wear a face mask during protest. If you believe strongly about a cause, you will go out and protest and be open about it. So I will encourage the City Council to keep the face mask ban in effect. I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Next is Dr. Samuel White Ephraim.
Here we go again. Let me say this also once again. I'm the Vice President of the NAACP here in Modesto, California, Stanislaus County. I am not confused, conflicted, hoodwinked, won't be bullied at all concerning this amendment on the ban. The President, Wendy Berg, asked me to relay some things that she felt she wasn't able to be here due to certain medical modalities that she is dealing with. The Modesto Police Department, she says, has all the tools that it needs. It has armorized vehicles. It has non-lethal weapons. It has dogs. It has drones. We have helicopters, Air One, so forth and so on. People came out to protest, not so much as with the mask on, but because of democracy, is what's at stake here, is the democracy and the rights of individuals. This is a very fine line. I listened to the counselor give her briefs. I thought about Shuttlefield versus Alabama 494-197. Peoples were arrested simply for their rights to protest. The mask, I have a clear mask, being a combat veteran. I have a windbreaker that is a bulletproof windbreaker. It's very thin because when Ollie North was dealing with the Contra affairs, many of you might know, some of you don't. So would I be told that because I wear this, I would be arrested? Or if I wore the mask, it's a clear shield where you can see my face, would I be arrested?
You need to keep your remarks towards us.
I am, but I can turn and look at people. That's one of my rights. So what I'm saying is, I think this should be scrapped. I really do. Let me leave you with this thought. There were two monks who were walking down the road,
And they came to a place where the river crossed the road, and there was a woman there in her wedding garment. She knew if she stepped in the water, her garment would be ruined and she wouldn't be able to go to the wedding.
You're exceeding your limits.
Well,
so
I
wrap
heard
it up.
others exceed theirs, so
Yeah.
please allow me
Yeah.
to finish this. I'll leave you with this.
Okay.
So the one monk picked her up and carried her across. The young monk that was with him looked at the older monk and said, "Why did you do that?" The older monk just walked away. The younger monk walked 5 more miles with him. We walked 5 more miles with him. He turned around and he said, "Why did you pick that woman up and carry her across?" He says, "It's not permitted for us to even look at a woman, much more you did that." The older monk turned and walked away. The younger monk finally walked in front of him. He stood in front of him and he said, "Why did you do that?" The older monk said, "Are you talking about the woman that I picked up and carried across there 5 miles ago?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I put her down 5 miles ago. Why are you still carrying her?"
Thank you.
I hope you get the message.
Next, Thomas Helm.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tom Helm. Time's up already. Co-founder Valley Improvement Projects. I'm on the board of the local ACLU Stanislaus chapter. I'm speaking today on my own behalf as an individual, but I do have the ACLU's most recent letter. I'm going to kind of use it as an outline because I happen to agree with most of it. First of all, I find it a little interesting that this issue in particular was put on this agenda, which is the Tuesday after the Thanksgiving holiday. So we all know that most folks were probably enjoying family time on Friday when this agenda came out, so that folks can know that this issue is going to be talking about. That's a coincidence, I guess. Nothing that I thought about this ordinance's unconstitutionality has been comforted by the updates to this ordinance. In fact, you've made some really good arguments actually on why this is unconstitutional. It's still extremely vague. You give examples of things that can be worn, but that was already part of medical necessity, and then saying a medical necessity, including but not limited to these masks, you're saying the exact same thing. So nothing was really changed. It still gives the police department, the vagueness is what gives the police department the discretion to decide how and who to enforce it against. The costume addition, I'm not trying to be rude. I think it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous language to say that if you're wearing a costume and the mask is an expressive function of the costume, it's okay. But if a mask is the expressive function of free expression and speech, it is not okay. So a person who comes in that Snow White costume with that mask is now given more freedom than the same exact person who goes to their car, takes off the Snow White mask, puts on a yellow bandana, and walks back into the protest. Now they are subject to arrest. That's almost textbook definition of vague law that then the police get to decide what to enforce, and that's not how it's supposed to. We heard some almost verbal gymnastics to describe how this one thing is okay in this very specific way. But if I was going to come to a protest in a costume as a masked protester, for example, is now my mask finally a part of my expressive right to then wear that mask? That's how ridiculous this sounds. So please use your common sense and see that this is still an unconstitutional law. You'll probably get taken to court over it and vote no on both of these ordinances. Thank you.
All right. Gavin Bruce.
Thank you. My name is Gavin. I'm a resident of Modesto. And yeah, I had also was also reflecting on reading these updates to this ordinance, and also kind of stricken by how continually vague they are, and how just using more words, they don't really expand on anything. The costume thing is also, I'm surprised that none of you on council had any questions following the presentation. Because like one of the questions, like the first thing I could think of is, okay, so if you show up dressed up in a costume as like, I don't know, as like a gorilla or something, and and that's your costume, that's okay to cover your face. But if you show up dressed as a ninja, that is not okay. So it depends on what you come dressed up as also, and also how good your costume is. So if somebody comes dressed up like a cowboy and they're wearing a bandana over their face, if your costume's not good enough, someone can think, well, no, it's not a costume. You're just dressed in regular street clothes and wearing a bandana on your face. So it's really vague that way. Another thing I wanted to highlight was in the presentation, a lot of those photos that were shown are showing people, wearing face masks, but then it's like, here's an exhibit A. Look at this person at a protest wearing a face mask. Now moving on, exhibit B. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Okay, you showed a person wearing a face mask at a protest, but they're not committing a crime in the photo. So there were a lot of those examples that just seemed to kind of be filler and kind of feed the fear tactic. The other thing I want to say is that the language of using, I can't remember what the exact terms that the police chief used, but something like a lawful, kept the police from using their lawful authority, which is a stand-in for kept us from being able to use violence against that person. Maybe they were wearing a face covering, and so they weren't able to pepper spray him in the face as they would have been able to if the person was out there naked. We're all expected to be out there naked and be fully exposed. The police are allowed to show up wearing full body armor. And on top of that, being at that protest back in June, I've said this before and I'll say it again, that situation did not escalate. It was because of the organizers of the protests. That's why, and the discipline of the people who were marching that day, they kept it from escalating. That was in spite of the police presence. In this ordinance, previously in the ordinance, it's mentioned that tactical gear, the presence of tactical gear, people wearing tactical gear, tends to cause an escalation in the crowd. That applies to the police also, but they're able to wear all of that tactical gear and face mask and ride up in unmarked vehicles. This is going to open up. This is leaving the city open up for liability and being sued. So from a fiscally responsible sense too, this is not a good ordinance to have on the books. You're leaving us open for liability. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Laura Placencia.
Hello, good evening. My name is Laura Placencia. I am here today to share my opposition with this mask ordinance. As someone who doesn't practice religion, I find it discriminatory in a sense that it's only protecting few and it's negating for others to be able to protect themselves. Additionally, I'd like to critique your community engagement on that survey as poor and biased. It was added to a general survey deviating from the extreme importance of this issue, and the question was not worded effectively nor provided the necessary context to be able to respond to the question effectively. And on top of that, it also had poor outreach. It's not to say that this is a complicated issue, and it is a tool exactly for that, Sue, for public safety. Some use this mask for good, to be able to protect themselves from external, from others or other like government implications, and others use it for bad reasons. But this is another cause of, once again, good people having to pay for the bad consequences of others. We know that bad people find loopholes onto things. So once again, as it's been mentioned before, with these costumes, like what is it that bad people won't put these costumes on and do their bad intent. So once again, this ruling is just coming to affect good people with good intent who just want to protect themselves. In addition to all of that, AI and facial recognition technology, which can identify you and track you in public without your consent, has been quickly developing and has been identified as outpacing laws and regulations. So currently, the U.S. has no unified legal framework on when and how facial recognition technology can be used. Being able to have the right to cover your face is a right that every person should have to have, regardless of you wanting to dress up that day or having other religious beliefs. Overall, this poses a huge risk on our communities. It impacts the fundamental civil rights and heavily restricts our communities from engaging in their civil liberties, including freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, the right to petition the government. This only limits folks who are vulnerable or advocates, as we've known that government has previously used putting more charges onto vulnerable populations or advocates. You guys must side with people and not with the oppressor, and people deserve the right to choose if they want their faces shown. Nowadays, with the internet and AI, we are at heavy risk of having our face utilized for many other reasons. So I believe that it is our right to be able to make that choice for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jose.
Hey there, everybody. How everybody's doing fantastic. I want to thank you guys for your time. Just want to reemphasize the importance of really removing that mask ordinance because it ultimately affects minorities like myself, especially in a police state. That highlighting, I want to also mention a couple of different points as different folks were presenting. So we spoke about plastic bottles being thrown, glass bottles being thrown, but what about metal water bottles? You know, every day we're getting closer and closer to sustainability. Are we saying, hey, sustainability has no room if there's a First Amendment involved? I beg to differ. So if we really need to consider something, we need to consider, hey, what are the things that we're saying no to? Are we going to be providing water bottles at protests that are plastic as alternatives to keep your bottles in the car or something like that? Another item is we spoke about costumes. Hey, we spoke about Minnie Mouse, Snow White costumes. What about those January 6th rioters? That's technically a costume. Are we saying, hey, as long as you're dressed up as certain individuals, you're allowed to? Technically, that January 6th person is famous enough to be a costume. And another note, I wanted to highlight that it is not the law enforcement's responsibility to protect us. The Supreme Court has ruled it time and time again. So when we say, oh, we're here to protect you, hey, they have their own discretion. So let me read this. It says, the Supreme Court has ruled that law enforcement agencies generally do not have affirmative constitutional duty to protect specific individuals from harm caused by a bad actor. So it really is a little bit of a challenge because Supreme Court has ruled, hey, it's not your responsibility. Hey, you're there to protect the laws. So that was ruled and re-emphasized in the Texas shooting that took place in 2021. So law enforcement, yes, you could hope that law enforcement protects you, but you also have to be cognizant of yourself and protect yourself. Move yourself away from danger if you're seeing it occurring. So with that, I thank you guys for your time, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night.
You're welcome. Next is Rianne Hall.
Hi, Ryan Hall.
Ryan, I'm sorry.
You're all good. I'm finally done applying for a PhD, so I'm back to my regular scheduled Tuesday evenings. These revisions aren't enough. The ACLU agreed within just a day of having these revisions that it's not enough. These revisions continue to be unworkable, they continue to be vague, and they continue to be unconstitutional. I'll let the ACLU handle that one, though. I have a lot of concerns about these revisions, and it's largely because I have concerns about the data collected and the research performed to support the ordinance, rather than appropriately amend, revise, or challenge it. I have 5 points. 1, ask any high schooler taking an introductory statistics class. That survey was not conducted adequately or appropriately. Additionally, surveys are not the only way of collecting data. To be credible, surveys must be backed by further research and interdisciplinary analysis. This research provided by individuals and groups with very specific expertise, which substantially degrades the quality of the entire policy. No research performed regarding this policy has been balanced. It is not comprehensive. I won't comment on the professional experiences of those who provided counsel, but I do want to say that expertise cannot be defined as professional experience in a particular sector that you like. Academic knowledge is expertise. Leadership and community organizing is expertise. Lived experience is expertise. Again, ask any high schooler. Correlation does not equal causation. Reduced rates of violence at protests cannot solely be attributed to this ordinance. Rather, it can also be attributed to the community organizers and protesters who understand that escalation endangers everyone and do our best to prevent it. Policies and police presence are not the sole indicators of safety and security at protests. Community is. 4, listen to your community when further amending or outright repealing this ordinance. I will share these thoughts as a community organizer, anthropologist, and labor historian. Adequately research-based policies issued by a city that supports their communities are policies that work. Policies regarding peaceful assembly in Modesto are to be co-authored by the people who actually organize and attend these events in Modesto. Many of us protest because it's the only table that we have a seat at. If you want policies that actually work, start including people with the lived experience at your table instead of unconstitutionally infringing on our right to protect ourselves while making our voices heard. Lastly, fund the CPRB. Adding to previous comments about funding a CPRB, it is not funded at all. Board members aren't being paid. They cannot meet regularly outside of the community review board meetings. They cannot attend community events. They cannot manage social media presence. They cannot even print CPRB specific business cards because they do not have the time, and time is money. I know that, you know that. They do not have the money to be effective, but you have the funds to reallocate.
Thank you. Next is Anthony Drobnik.
All right, I got a lot to say, so let's go fast. My name is Anthony Drobnik, and I'm a concerned resident of Modesto. My choice to identify myself publicly tonight does not delegitimize my concerns of anonymity during a protest, yet this proposed ordinance implies otherwise. Surely you can understand how a video clip from a protest, stripped of context and spread online, can lead to real-world harassment and threats to personal safety. These council meetings are publicly broadcast and archived with the full context intact. The risk of being identified in these distinct public fora is simply significantly different. I know you understand that. The fact that the public arena is subject to the modern surveillance state, a fact you repeatedly pointed out is a reason to restrict anonymous protest, is an argument for more privacy, not less. Forcing individuals to choose between safety and our right to speak chills protected expression. Moreover, your distancing of our local concerns for anonymity during a protest from the precedent set by Ghaffari v. Municipal Court sets a dangerous standard. The government should not be in the business of determining which groups face enough of a threat to deserve anonymity. Peaceful protesters should be able to be proactive about protecting our identities. Waiting until after threats have been made, or worse yet, carried out, is the exact wait-and-see approach to public safety that this council claims to oppose. Also, this ordinance is drastically over-inclusive. It likens peaceful protesters wearing masks to violent criminals, which are fundamentally different. A narrowly tailored policy would target conduct, the act of committing violence or vandalism while masked, not the mere act of wearing a mask, something we already have a California penal code for. Furthermore, this ordinance is paradoxically also under-inclusive. You claim the goal is safety, but this ordinance's exceptions reveal its true nature. The ordinance allows facial coverings at entertainment events like Halloween. Does the city seriously believe that on Halloween a person is any less dangerous or their identity is any less concealed? This proves the ordinance is not about the functional act of concealing identity. It's about the context of political protest. By creating an arbitrary exception, the city admits that a mask alone is not a danger. The perceived danger is a mask in a political setting. But I know that you won't take action unless you can get a PR win out of this. So let me tell you how we can all go home happy. Reject the emergency ordinance, reject the non-emergency ordinance, scrap the initial problematic ordinance, but come back with a new one where you say that Modesto bans facial coverings for the act of committing a crime or to conceal one's identity. Is it unnecessary? Of course it is. It's redundant with California Penal Code. But it lets you all appease the people you're so worried about pleasing by showing that you care about people's pearl-clutching concerns about dangerous mass protesters, and it respects our First Amendment freedoms. Pat yourselves on the back, take the win-win. It's the bare minimum you can do as so-called public servants. Do your job.
Are there any other members of the public regarding item 10? Okay, I am going to take a break. That was the end of the blue cards, but let's take a 5-minute break and return at 7:50. continue again with public comment on item 10. I do not have any more blue cards, so if you're planning on speaking, please step forward one at a time. You don't need to stand. I don't want you to have to stand, but whatever you prefer. All right, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council members. Angelica Salceda with the ACLU of Northern California. Not from Modesto, but come to you from West Fresno County. And I'm here to express the concerns about the proposed revisions to the mask ordinance that is before you today. And as you all have mentioned, you all received an updated letter from us expressing our concerns. So I'll keep it brief today because I think our letter speaks for itself. The proposed revisions make the ordinance more unconstitutional, not less. The revisions do nothing to address certain key ambiguities in the ordinance and instead lead to absurd results due to the revisions' differential treatment of speech based on content. They also leave other members of the public, and especially journalists, vulnerable to safety concerns, posing a threat to constitutional freedoms and safe news gathering. We urge this council to reconsider the proposed ordinance to avoid potential legal challenges. Thank you.
Right. Take the next person.
Greetings, City Council. I come today to congratulate you all on ignoring the people who like to regularly use their First Amendment rights, thanks to a survey in which the participants were provided zero context as to why they were being asked about the mask ordinance. As you know, consensus from the underinformed public will always trump the civil rights of a minority group. Just like in the 1960s, the civil rights movement was extremely unpopular at the time. Most people disapproved of black folks practicing their First Amendment rights to organize, protest, and boycott. However, the president and Congress at the time took the coward's way out and passed the Civil Rights Act. I'm glad to know that had you all been members of Congress at the time, you would have been the brave few who listened to the will of the majority and denied the inalienable rights of oppressed black folks. You would have bravely ignored their cries for equality and justice. Thank you so much for your bravery in the face of an impending lawsuit that you are sure to lose. I know the reality of the matter is that you're actually all afraid of how this might impact your future political careers by supporting something that is seen as unpopular by your constituents. But please know that you're doing the right thing here by doing the wrong thing, according to our Constitution at least. With all that being said, I feel like the ordinance never even went far enough, and even the new proposed changes still don't go far enough. So I'd like to make some new suggested restrictions against our rights to protest. Firstly, let's ban all footwear while protesting, for it can be used to violently kick others and to flee law enforcement more efficiently. If you really care to protest about something, you should be brave enough to do so barefoot. You should also ban backpacks, because if you really care for the cause, you should be able to spontaneously sprout more arms out of your back to carry all of your belongings. You know, don't be a lazy wimp who uses a bag at a protest. Next, you should ban facial hair and any hairstyles longer than a buzz cut, because it can be used as another way to obstruct your identity. As a protester, you should have the courage to go clean shaven from the top of your head down to the bottom of your ankles. In fact, every protester should soak themselves with Nair hair remover all over their bodies before heading out. This way, they can be easily cataloged in the police databases as people who care about their community right before the police crush their puny little protests. We also can't ignore the danger of voices themselves. Protest chants can be loud, and loud noises can frighten small dogs or disturb brunch patios. So I propose a ban on vocal cords. Protesters should communicate exclusively through sign language and keep things quiet. And while we're at it, let's ban signs entirely. Words are dangerous, ideas are inflammatory, and cardboard is flammable. If people really have something to say, they can simply think it quietly to themselves, just as the MPD would prefer. Finally, to ensure maximum safety, we should require all protests to submit a formal request to law enforcement at least 60 business days in advance, detailing the exact time, place, and emotions that they plan to express. Any deviations such as anger, hope, or chanting should be met with swift and violent enforcement. Because at the end of the day, we all know that our rights end where other people's fears begin. Freedom is scary, and we can't deal with it.
Good evening, City Council. My name is
Good
Laura
evening.
Khanna, and I am a resident of Modesto. I want to begin by acknowledging a certain amount of effort was expended on attempting to amend this ordinance so that it is somewhat less unconstitutional. It's serious work, and I appreciate any effort to engage in the issues that affect both public safety and civil liberties. That said, I must be very clear tonight. I am deeply concerned with the presentation that was shown tonight regarding this ordinance. It lacks neutrality, balance, and sufficient research. When this council was called on by community members, the ACLU, the First Amendment Coalition, and other groups that support the protection of our constitutional rights, the council was asked to evaluate the ordinance, collect information, and make the necessary changes to ensure the ordinance would not chill First Amendment activity. That process should have been thorough, impartial, and reflective of a desire to protect the rights of our community members, especially those already vulnerable to social inequities. Instead, what has been presented is largely a repetition, a regurgitation of Police Chief Brandon Gillespie's baseless talking points. From what I understand, the recommendations offered tonight were developed from questionable anecdotes and half-baked analysis from the police chief, consultations with attorneys who seem to possess little to no understanding nor concern for our freedom of speech, and research on the internet, of which I would be curious to understand what the sources on the internet were. At the outset, I, and I believe many others, assumed that the council would take into consideration meaningful input to gauge and correct for harmful impacts of this ordinance. That did not occur. Instead, pointless survey questions about the mask ordinance were created with no intention of providing context concerning the chilling effects and viewpoint discrimination of this ordinance. Deciding that an unconstitutional ordinance is essentially fine as is with little to no changes made, and justifying it as the will of the majority based on a few misleading survey questions is not only inaccurate, it is inequitable. I further caution the council not to prioritize the comfort or appeasement of certain special interest groups like the Modesto Police Department over the more difficult but necessary work of listening to your constituents who are educated on our rights and are deeply invested in collective care and justice for everyone, not just those who are afforded privileges and protections of the status quo. The credibility and integrity of this council depends on it. This council is supposed to be a governing body that acts in the interest of our community, not to serve as a cheerleading squad or public relations firm for the police. I would not have bothered to participate in the democratic process if this was the intent. I'll close with this. Tonight, I'll ask you whether you have truly the correct, unbiased information you need to approve this ordinance with unconstitutional masking provisions still intact, even though the impending civil rights lawsuit by the ACLU will guarantee such a mistake will cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. The taxpayers of Modesto deserve better than to have their money wasted in such a shameful manner. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, there's one thing that we have not talked about tonight, and that is trust. And I think that this whole thing stems from a lack of trust. You know, I mean, when you consider the fact that the Trump administration began, you know, sending ICE agents to all kinds of places, shopping centers, government offices, schools, protest, anywhere that they could, even churches, even during even masses, Catholic masses, sending ICE agents anywhere they can where they suspect they might find people that were not born in the United States who are here for whatever reason that they consider to be nefarious. Yeah, like running a business, having been here for 20 years with a green card and running a business legitimately and raising a family, and now all of a sudden they're being deported. What we have here is a lack of trust of law enforcement in general, and I think I want to extend this. What we could have here is teamwork. We could have teamwork between law enforcement and the protesters. They could work as a team, collaboratively. It could happen. I mean, there could even be meetings between Chief Gillespie and the organizers of the protest before the protest. And they can decide collaboratively how they're going to work together. They could decide collaboratively how the police are going to protect the protesters, how they are going to work with them as a team and make sure that they make it through the streets safely and that they're not harmed by other people, by counter-protesters. And the element of trust could be established that their pictures are not going to be sent to ICE, that they're not going to send any information to ICE about the protesters so that they can use their AI technology to figure out who these people are. That is what is this whole thing is really about. It's a lack of trust. So I would encourage Chief Gillespie and the organizers of the protest to work together and see if they can, work collaboratively before each protest, and thereby, establish trust. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Juan Thayas. I also work for Valley Improvement Projects, but I am representing myself as an experienced protester. I was at the 2020 protest where we protested for Black Lives, and I feel like there was trust there. I felt like the organizers were able to communicate with the police department, and we were able to take the streets. And so we really, there were some issues along the way, but they were squashed immediately because organizers and folks that cared about community and cared about sharing our First Amendment rights and sharing our opinions squashed them immediately. So we were able to go all the way to Briggsmore and back downtown with few issues. It wasn't until after our protest was already over where things descended into a little bit of chaos, where myself, a masked protester, had to protect, and with my body, along with other protesters, police officers that were cornered. So there can be bad masked folks and good masked folks. But I want to make sure that that the trust is built through this process, and I don't think that trust is accurately being lived out in this process. I feel like we have a commission that is here to talk about what is important to the citizens, and that review board isn't being given the power to do so. At the last protest in summertime, I feel like a lot of trust was lost between, my thoughts about the police department and how they handled themselves that day, because it was very similar to how ICE is going into communities and taking folks that look like me. And some of the folks that were being taken that day were trying to protect the peace. And, I don't know, where some of our issues lie that day about stopping traffic, making sure everybody crosses safely. We were on the sidewalk. Eli was an individual taken while we were trying to cross peacefully. But then this ordinance wasn't being enforced later on in the day, where folks had poles, masks. And so I am hesitant to give the police department more power, vague power, in order to enforce more things if they're going to only enforce them on folks that look like me. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Council, my name is Harlan Div, and I'm a resident of Modesto. I had comments prepared that were kind of a greatest hits of everything I've talked about over the last 6 months with Council, that the actions of the police had a chilling effect on speech, that this ordinance has a chilling effect on speech, that no survey can override rights. We've talked about all of those things together, but then I came tonight. Before I got here, I printed out the November 26th letter from Chief Gillespie and City Attorney Sanchez. And there's a lot in that letter. It talks about protesters like me and our wish to engage in criminal activity free from accountability. You guys have gotten to know me over the last 6 months. You've gotten to know a lot of the protesters in this room. That's not what we're about. These protesters work together to keep each other safe, to keep the community safe. Megaphones are used to communicate to the crowd, to keep each other out of trouble. Masks are used to protect against doxing and violence by the police. Sorry. The thing that was most harmful in this letter was this phrase, and in fact, several of the individuals who expressed concern for their anonymity during protests have appeared unmasked at the regularly televised Modesto City Council meetings when, knowing that these meetings are regularly broadcast to a large audience, my privacy is mine. It belongs to me, not City Council, not to the police. It belongs to me. If I choose to use this space to speak about free speech rights, I should not be then shamed by the city attorney for doing so. I should not be shamed by the police chief for talking about First Amendment rights in this space. Unmasked, it is brave. People who have spoken in this space have been targeted by police. They have had bones broken. Organizers have been targeted by police. I do not expect not to be targeted by police in the coming year if I am in protests. I expect it because that's what's happening. That's what's actually happening. And meanwhile, we're working on wordsmithing little changes to this law that you're doubling down on that was bad law in 2019. It's bad law now. Don't double down on it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of effort. I've only got a couple seconds left. Who spoke here? Chief Gillespie spoke here. Attorney Fox spoke here. Who did not speak here? The Community Police Review Board. The board that this city put together to watch over the police, to give feedback to this body, to give feedback on what's happening in the community. Bring them here, let them speak. Not on this because the time has passed, but bring them here and give them a voice.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to speak on item 10?
Good evening, once again. These revisions to this municipal code, they are not enough, and this presentation was clearly created to fearmonger against the idea of violent protesters. The code itself is still vague, unenforceable, and violates our First Amendment rights, even with the clarifications. And I want to add, not everyone has access to the medical masks that are listed. We are still in a pandemic. Cloth masks may be the best that someone has to protect themselves against COVID. I would also like to point out the power dynamic between civilians and police is not equal. The protesters are people with water bottles versus an armed militia with guns and riot gear. Of course, people are going to wear protective gear and masks to protect their identities. Do we want to show the videos of police officers violently arresting folks? Or the police body cam footage for June 14th? I also want to point out that police drafting policy is a problem. It's a gross overreach of power. Those who enforce laws should not be creating them. We see how much the police are favored here. Over $100 million annual budget with extra $500K and $80K given to armored vehicle and a surveillance plane. We have seen how selectively the police enforce policy. It's not about keeping people safe. It's about control. We don't have any reason really to trust the police based on the existence of the history of violence from cops. I would like to point out, recently someone was reported a break-in in Modesto of someone who was masked. The police were called. They did nothing. They didn't even show up because they couldn't prove he was committing a crime because he didn't successfully break in. So a man actively committing a crime isn't as much of a threat as a peaceful protester. So I guess the penal code doesn't mean anything either then. And I would like to point out also right-wing ideology affects Modesto citizens every day, but when those same folks defend themselves or rightfully lash out against those spreading hate speech, they are painted as the aggressors. We've seen this fear-mongering tactic again and again. We're told we must fight against state violence the right way, not to look scary or intimidating. This is authoritarianism at work. We currently live under a dictator who has openly admitted to being a fascist, and you are all using this moment to allow fascism to grow and fester in your own community. ICE is in our communities, and law enforcement doesn't do anything to protect folks being snatched from their homes and from court hearings. Using policing as a means to control the population that is rightfully protesting a violent police state is authoritarianism. I believe our friend Steve hit the nail on the head. This is diet fascism. Those of us who show up to share our opinion want the mask ordinance repealed fully. If you approve the revision tonight and don't vote to fully repeal it, the citizens of Modesto and the ACLU will take you to court and you will lose after wasting taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other public comments for item 10? Seeing none, I will close public comments at this time and ask council members for comments. Comments? All right. Seeing none,
So Mayor,
okay.
maybe before we move on, there were some comments made regarding costumes. I think that probably some clarity regarding that costume.
All right.
Regarding, maybe some clarity regarding the costume section would be good for the council.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. So I think there were several comments regarding the costume exception to the mask prohibition. And that is found in section 3. It was on page 9 of the PowerPoint presentation. So let's be clear. If you're dressed as Snow White, or you're dressed as a dancing ninja, or a regular ninja, or you're dressed as a frog, those are all elements of expressive activity. It's been recognized by the courts, and accordingly, that's why it was and now remains as an exemption to the ordinance. You do not, I will repeat, you do not have a right to cover your face. That is not a constitutional right. So the issue about the medical mask, which we saw in one of the videos, clips that the chief showed, we had the LGBT folks who were wearing a medical mask and it had a rainbow on it. You can have your medical mask and have any message on it you desire. Black Lives Matter, any messages against the police. All of those are permitted expression on that mask. So I hope that helps clarify a little bit. Also, there was some comment made about a clear mask. So again, if you look at the language of the ordinance that's been provided, a clear mask would not hide one's identity. And so it would not be precluded under the provisions of Chapter 23. So the issue about the language of Chapter 23, I think it's important to note that the courts say consistently, mathematical precision is not required. What is required is to give a person of ordinary intelligence what is allowed and what is not allowed. And this ordinance that is provided to you does just that.
Right, thank you. Any other clarifying comments? All right. Any comments from council members after hearing these clarifying comments? All right. This requires a vote, 2 votes. First is a motion waiving the reading and adopting an urgency ordinance amending the City of Modesto Municipal Code Title 4, Chapter 23, restrictions on use of specified items during public assembly providing various revisions to the time, place, and manner regulations as to public assemblies. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right, moved by Vice Mayor Bavaro, seconded by David Wright. Councilmember Wright, will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwalin.
Aye. So that carries unanimously. Second one is a motion introducing and waiving the first reading of an ordinance amending the City of Modesto Municipal Code Title IV, Chapter 23, restrictions on use of specified items during public assembly, providing various revisions to the time, place, and manner regulations as to public assemblies. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Mayor Bavaro, seconded by Council Member Scooty Brayton. And will the clerk please call the roll for this item?
Councilmember Wright.
Aye.
Councilmember Gutierrez.
Aye.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bavaro.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
And Mayor Zwalin.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Seeing none, I'm calling this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned.